Hey all, Pi here, and we are back in our life forever and always, and we are about to make a decision, so let's do that now. Your voice faltered a little bit, but you kept going as best as you could. You were really proud of your shell collection, and it made you happy that Cove was interested in it too. Apparently fascinated either by the stories or by the shells themselves, Cove listened with what looked like the full force of his attention. It was a new experience to be the center of such dedicated focus, even if it was only directed at the shells. Kids, come down to the living room. You could tell the idea was making him unhappy, but Mommy wasn't giving you much of a chance to hang around. Cove hadn't been like this meeting you. You guessed it was because you found each other by accident, and the parent didn't make it happen. Yeah, it does make a difference when you just kind of bump into other people in the wild versus having it set up by forces outside of you. Anyway. Mr. Holden must be right that telling Cove his dad was part of that would be a bad idea. Before you knew it, you'd both been escorted downstairs and deposited in the living room, ready for Shiloh's visit. The two of you sat side by side on the floor of your home's entryway. I brought the box of shells. I want to keep looking at them. Okay, but be careful. I will. You weren't sure if you could trust someone else with your treasures yet, so you stayed next to him while you opened the lid and peered inside. Cove reached in and pulled out a big orange cell. Oh. Like he hadn't spoken aloud yet, he turned to you and held it up, his eyes shining. I think this one is the best of them. That's my favorite too. Cove smiled at you, and you both admired the shell together. It was a giant conch with shades of dark and light orange. If you held it to your ear, you could practically hear the ocean. I found that one last summer when we went to the beach on a picnic. The two of you were still sitting on the floor, looking through your collection of beach findings when the doorbell finally rang. Cove jumped, startled by the sound. Since the person hadn't knocked, you figured it was probably Shiloh. You knew where to look for that. Lizzie's friend? You nodded, but that didn't seem to make Cove feel better. It was already obvious that Cove didn't hide his feelings well. You could tell he was thinking right away. This isn't a good idea. I'm sorry, there's nowhere to go. He's at our only door, and if you go upstairs, he'll find you. Cove glanced around the room, his eyes wide, and finally paused with his gaze locked on the back of the house. I can go out the window. He was already walking towards it. No! Scrambling to think of something to say, you stepped forward, then paused. Please don't get hurt. I'm worried. What if something happens? The distance from the first floor living room to the window wasn't far, but you could tell it made Cove nervous anyway. He touched the cast on his arm. The wind had clearly released from his sails. I don't want to break any more bones. I don't think anyone wants to. Yeah. But I don't want to see him. I don't know him. You comforted him. You're right. Meeting new people is really hard. I'm sorry. Thanks. Shiloh poked his head into the living room. It was impossible to know for sure if he'd heard what you'd been saying or not, but you guess he had.
Hi.
Hi, Xander. And hi, Cove? Cove shot you an uneasy glance. Hi. I'm Shiloh. It's nice to meet you. Yeah. You have a lot of freckles. Right, I do. What are you guys doing? We're looking at shells.
Can I do it too?
Awesome. Can I do it too? I fucking love his voice. Oh my goodness, he is so precious. Can I just pinch his little cheeks? Oh my goodness. Anyway, calming down. Cove shrugged, then looked back at your box of beach findings. What about that one? The plan for the afternoon, at least as far as you were concerned, was to sit and look at beach things for some more. You weren't really in the mood to do much of anything else. You held out a recent find to Cove, a scallop shell that had washed up on the shore. That's a pretty color, kinda like my cast. The beautiful, glittering pink did look a little bit like the wrap around his arm. Pink is a nice color. Okay.
Oh?
Is it your favorite? Not really. What is? Maybe green? Or blue. It might be yellow. Oh, those are all cool.
I guess.
Shiloh is trying so goddamn hard. Not sure how to deal with the suddenly more awkward silence, you looked back at your shells. Like usual, it didn't take long for Shiloh to get fidgety. Lizzie was his favorite. Without her around, Shiloh didn't seem to know what to do with himself. And Cove wasn't like your sister. He wasn't that much like you, either. Is Lizzie coming back? I don't know. Aww. Where'd she go? I think she's at the beach. Probably. Is she playing at her park? Cove's eyes lit up at the mention of the park, and he looked towards you. There's a park? Yep, but it's old. Can you show me? I want to go. He started getting up before he had even answered, and Shiloh jumped up beside him in excitement. Really? You do too, right, Xander? The park is fun. I could absolutely just be the wet blanket on this and just be like, no. I think I will, actually. No. Oh. I still want to go see. You do? Yeah. Like a puppy watching a ping pong match, Shiloh looked back and forth between you and Cove. So, are we going to find Lizzie? I don't know. I never really wanted to see her. I just want to check the park out. Adrift without any direction, Shiloh turned towards you. Okay. You perked up. Both boys wanted to go. It was only fair. After getting permission from your moms, the three of you were ready to head out. It was a short walk to the park. Lizzie had convinced your moms that it was so short she should always be allowed to walk there by herself. I like Lizzie. When you found her, she was hanging on the jungle gym, swinging back and forth. Hey, Lizzie. Her face lit up when she saw you, her big brown eyes going wide. Xander, Shiloh. Hi! She dropped to the ground and landed with a soft thud in the sand. In a split second, Shiloh had abandoned you two and scrambled over to stand by her. You were used to being left out when there was just the three of you, but now Cove was here. You weren't sure if this was an improvement. I'm just like, I'm still alone with a stranger, oh no! Who's that? It's Cove, he's new.
Hi.
I remember. Hi, Cove. Welcome to my park. Nobody ever comes to play here, so this is where we get together. She gestured widely with her arms as if to present the area to the newcomer. While Lizzie continued talking, you took the chance to kick off your shoes and wriggle your toes through the warm sand. Nice, huh? In this neighborhood, I'm the one who comes up with the ideas. You are?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I am. Who else could handle the job? Lizzie is the oldest. By a lot. My mom say you're Xander's age. Yeah. I thought so. I'm still the only one in this group with double digits. What about other kids? Other kids? There aren't any. We're the only kids here, and Shiloh is just visiting from another place. Not even tourists really bring their kids here. This is the land of ancients. Be careful that the oldies don't try to steal your youth. Oh. For a second it looked like he might cry again. Oh no, baby, no! But something in his eyes shifted and he looked back at Lizzie. What kind of old people? Like moms and dads or grandparents? Grandparents who don't have kids. They hate kids. Why? We haven't done anything. Appropriate response. Yeah, they're really bad. You went along with her, wriggling your fingers menacingly at Cove. He sniffled, his forehead creasing with worry. Lizzie was staring at Cove down, but Cove wasn't even looking at her anymore. He didn't seem to care that she was there. He went into his own head. Shiloh was the next one to speak, completely unaware of the situation. I met Lizzie and Xander in school. You'll see tons of kids there once summer is over. I don't want to go to a new school. I don't want summer to end. Shiloh looked down into the dirt. He hasn't had much luck stirring up conversations with Cove. I like summer vacation a lot, too. Whole building tension in the air suddenly vanished when Lizzie laughed. At Shiloh's discomfort, at how weird she thought Cove was, at something else entirely. You didn't really know, but she laughed, face scrunching up.
Okay.
Welcome to Sunset Bird, Cove. Take a seat, put up your feet, and get used to it. That is right. For the rest of the summer, Cove was always there. You saw him more often than Shiloh, and on some days, when she was in a bad mood or busy, you even saw him more than Lizzie. He became a staple of your everyday life, the ways the sun and lunch and the beach were. That first summer, you hadn't really been interested in him one way or another. He was just kind of a fact of life, someone you met with because he was there. Of course, that was only the start of things. Alright, let's fucking go. Alright, so, my general plan, since we've seen all of these before, is to kind of alternate. So we'll start with a regular, hit DLC, regular DLC on throughout. And it'll be fun. So let's start with something familiar. Come back before it gets dark, alright, sport? The familiar voice drifted across the street and drew your attention away from the snails you've been watching inch slowly across the pavement. Cove waited in front of his dad, pushing his green hair back off his face from where the breeze was blowing it over his glasses. He looked to be paying only a mild amount of attention, as he was being handed a few slips of green paper. It reminded you of when you'd first met Mr. Holden, although he's probably not paying Cove to be friends with himself. No, probably not. Here you are, kid. Be your own best friend. Oh, no. Cove's dad seemed to feel your gaze somehow, or maybe you made a noise, because a second later his eyes were on you. He waved you over with a smile. He looked happy to see you, but you still felt a little weird for getting caught. You've got to learn how to be more stinky. You brushed your hands together to free them of sand, then jogged over to join the two.
How's it going?
Good to see you again. What excitement are you up to today, Sander? Nothing. You toed the pavement in front of you. It would be nice to tell them about the snail you found, but you didn't know if they liked snails. After you finished answering the question, Mr. Holden's attention returned to Cove, who was preoccupied with folding the bills he had in tiny rectangles. Sounds fun. It does? You weren't sure about that. You know, Cove was about to hit the stores by the beach. Why don't you go with him? You shrugged. Cove was in the process of making a similar motion. You didn't have anything else to do, and you hadn't been to the stores in a few days. Maybe there was something new to look at. Maybe. Is that okay?
I guess.
I was going by myself, but I guess it is. You don't have to. Great, I'm sure you guys will have loads of fun. Mr. Holden reached into his pocket and pulled out a leather wallet filled with money. You found it odd, since your moms only ever seem to have cards in theirs. Mr. Holden is one of those believers in always having cash on him. Or he's secretly a stripper. Could go either way. There. Here. He leaned in to pass a crisp 10 to Cove, giving him a wink and a whisper. Get something for your friend, too. Sure.
Good.
That's my boy. Cove's dad ruffled his son's hair as he was straightening back up, the bill in his hand still held out towards the green-haired boy. Take care! Cove accepted the bill after a second and slipped it into his pocket. Then, with one last nod to his dad, he turned and started walking. You followed after him, intrigued at the possibility of this outing might bring. Cove strayed toward the gentle tide creeping up the sand, and you fell into place beside him. It was a nice day. The sun was shining, and there weren't many clouds in the sky, though the wind coming off the ocean kept it from being too hot. You took a deep breath, enjoying the scent of salt and ocean air. When you looked at Cove, he was dragging his feet through the sand a little, and you slowed down to wait for him. His eyes searched the ground intently. What is it? Nothing. He kept staring down at the ground, though. You bit down on your lip a little, wanting to say something else, but not knowing what. The comforting sound of the waves filled the silence with pleasant white noise, and you played a little game with yourself as you walked along, getting as close to the water as possible without getting wet. It resulted in you having to run up the sand quickly when a wave rushed in more than a few times, and although Cove threw a few glances your way, he didn't say a word. You didn't either. He seemed altogether too invested in the floor to pay attention. You decided to watch the waves as they inched closer and closer to your feet instead. Oh! Abruptly, Cove stopped, then moved briskly ahead a few steps. What is it? Without a word, he bent down, picking something up half buried in the sand. He hurried nearer, curiously glancing over his shoulder. It was a shell, lightly pink at the bottom and bleached white at the top. Wow, so you found what you were looking for? Cove got back up, turning his find over in his hands before unbuttoning one of the many pockets in his pants and sliding it inside. I pick up anything that's kind of cool. This is what I got this time.
So...
What about you? What do you do out here? I like looking at fish. They don't like me, so they always swim away if I get close, but they're pretty before that. Cool. Starfish are fun. They aren't going anywhere, even if you touch them. A small laugh escaped you. That's true. Once you reached the shopping area, the noise level grew exponentially. No longer just waves and footsteps, but the chatter of people enjoying the lovely summer day, the call of birds trying to find bits of food left behind, and lots of salespeople trying to get attention. You sniffed the air as you walked beside Cove. You could still smell the ocean, but there were other scents now too. Pizza, pretzels, hot donuts. It was alright. There was a lot going on, but it beat staying at home and doing nothing all day. You were sure that you and Cove could find something to fill the day if you looked around a bit. Cove was glancing from one side of the street to the other with a look in his aquamarine eyes that you couldn't quite work out. What's that? Cove pointed to a large crowd of people gathered near a few tables with large, colorful umbrellas blooming from their middles. You couldn't see past the adults who were blocking the way, but you knew there must be something worth seeing. Without another word, the two of you hurried over to see what all the commotion was about. Feast your eyes on the amazing Alexander! In the center of the crowd was a man with a tall hat, a fine green coat that had 3 long tails. There was a little table next to him with a cloth hanging over it that read, "The Amazing Alexander" in glittery golden script. Why tell people his name if it's already on a sign? Cove hummed with an understanding, then turned to walk away just as the Amazing Alexander began shuffling a deck of cards. You bit your lip, reluctantly starting to follow Cove, after Cove again. You continued looking over your shoulder, however, wanting to see as much as you could before you got too far away. Hey! Not watching where you were going proved to be a bad idea as you bumped right into Cove. Oops! Oh, sorry. Did you want to stay or something? If it's okay. He briefly lifted his arms up off his sides before returning them to place. You could have said so. With that, it began. The magic man pulled one card out of the deck, showing it to the curious onlookers. It was a 4 of diamonds. Watch closely. You did, squeezing through a few of the other adult onlookers to get a better view. Suddenly, the man snapped his fingers and the card just disappeared. Whoa! The Amazing Alexander, who had earned his title, turned his head and looked directly at you. He reached out with a kind smile. What's this behind your ear? You backed away. It wasn't enough to deter him, and the crowd of people gathered behind you made it impossible to move any further. He smelled like popcorn and candy when he stepped closer, and you swallowed anxiously. You felt a tug, and then he pulled out the 4 of diamonds from behind your ear. What? You knew that it couldn't really have come from your ear, but you still didn't get how he'd done it. There was a light applause from the crowd, and the man gave a deep bow. This is for you. The magician plucked a pair of balloons from a clump of them tied down to his table. Both were in the shape of a dolphin instead of being a normal circle. And one for your friend too. Thank you for being my assistant. Wow. Now you were really grateful he chose you. After that, he went to someone else in the crowd. Pick a card, any card. My uncle does that every time he visits. Not the balloons, the stuff with the cards. Cove spoke plainly while reaching over to take the dolphin that had been designated for him. He wondered if Cove's whole family was magic. If so, he was lucky. The crowd started to clear some, and you noticed that to the side there was a whole rack of brightly colored kaleidoscopes on display. You picked up a kaleidoscope. Oh! You shifted your balloon string to your other hand so you could bring the mysterious tunnel to your eye. A whole palette of colors appeared right in front of you, spinning into all kinds of different shapes as you twisted the end of the tube. Cove picked one up and looked through, twisting the tube at the end. After a second, he set it back on the rack, moving to the other side of the stall. He went under the awning, careful of his own floating dolphin, and you joined him. You said nothing. You stood in silence for a few moments, waiting for Cove to do something. When he finally moved towards some stalls nearby, you followed behind him. Cute. While Cove looked at the sand pails, you were drawn to a table with colorful keychains laid out on it. They were sewn in the shape of sea creatures, and there was a plaque that read, "Handmade," standing proudly in front. There were lots of different types. You saw a dolphin, a shark, a crab, a turtle. You picked up the turtle. Your hand stopped on the sleeping turtle, just barely poking its head out of its shell. It had flecks of metallic green on its back that caught the sunlight when you picked it up. You remembered the turtles you had seen in a movie. You had been mesmerized by the way they gently glided through the water. You were instantly enamored. Checking the price though, your heart fell. $6. You didn't know much about money, but you thought that was a lot to spend on one thing. You rarely had more than a $5 bill to your name. Is that what you want? Huh? Oh. It's $6. I didn't bring any money.
Alright.
It's fine. Are you sure? Kate took the keychain from your hands, and that was that. He was holding a small yellow bucket for himself, too. My dad told me to. You were a little nervous, but happy with your purchase nonetheless. It was nice of Cove's dad to let Cove buy something for you, too. After Cove paid, the two of you stepped out of the store side by side, your balloon dolphins knocking together and spiraling around in the air. You watched Cove hold up his new pail to his face, examining it thoroughly. Hey, Cove. Yeah? Thanks for getting me it. Okay. It wasn't clear if he really accepted your thanks or not. What? You were going to thank him for the keychain again, but considering he only did it because his dad told him to, it probably didn't matter. Cove raised an eyebrow, but didn't push the issue. Cove looked further down the street, where different food carts were lined up. He rested his non-cast arm over his stomach, and just as he did, yours let out a light growl. You hadn't eaten since breakfast, and after all this wandering around, you were definitely ready for some lunch. Let's get some food. Yeah. You two wandered around a short while, looking at the delicacies that were available. Everything looked delicious, and as the different smells, both sweet and salty, wafted over to you, your stomach growled even louder. After passing up hot dogs, snow cones, ice cream, and pizza, you both agreed on pretzels. So many good choices. Cove got something sweet and cinnamony, and you got one with cheese. You licked your lips hungrily as the vendor handed your pretzel over, ready to take a big bite. It was covered in gooey, melted cheese, just the way you liked it. It seemed odd to get a dessert pretzel before eating normal food. You found an empty table close enough to the beach that the grit of the sand made terrible noises when you dragged the chairs out to sit down. I hate that so much. These balloons are going to make it hard to eat. Cove placed his bucket on the table as he stared at his balled-up hand that was wrapped around the string. You opened your mouth to agree before an idea hit you. I know. After carefully placing your pretzel somewhere it wouldn't get sandy, you took the balloon dolphin out of Cove's hand and tied it in a delicate bow around his wrist.
Oh.
Oh. Cove bounced his arm up and down in place, testing the stability of your knot. After watching his balloon jostle around but remain attached, he seemed satisfied. Could you help me too? I can't tie it on my own wrist. He repeated the ritual. Cove struggled somewhat with the cast restricting his fingers on one hand as a string already tangled around the other.
Okay.
Got it. The two of you spent a moment admiring your handiwork, both hands now free to allow easy munching on your pretzels. You bit into the doughy treat, savoring the taste on your tongue with a smile as you looked out over the ocean. After a time, you finished your pretzel. You were done before Cove. It was boring not having anything to do. You pulled on the string of your balloon to bring it down to your level. Then you held the dolphin in your hands, manipulating it to make it look like it was jumping through the air. If you turned to face towards the beach, it almost looked like it was swimming in the waves like a real dolphin. A laugh came from your side. When you glanced back at Cove, he had left the remaining parts of his pretzel in the wrapper, and he was gripping his dolphin too. Mine's name is Merryweather. He's the prince of the dolphins. He wears a crown made of seaweed, and all of his friends are merfolk. Every now and then he'll make friends with a kid and let them ride on his back. You sighed, wishing you could meet a real dolphin like Mary Mother. What's yours? Cove considered this question, placing the balloon against the table and resting his free arm across it in contemplation. It's... With a loud pop, the dolphin exploded into ribbons. Oh no! Oh no! For a second, all Cove did was gape in shock like you. Then his cheeks puffed up, squinting his eyes, and you saw tears start to glisten. You offered to give Cove your balloon. You could have my balloon instead if you want it. Cove looked over at you, frowning. I don't want yours. Oh. You felt bad for Cove, but you were secretly glad. You really liked that little dolphin, and you weren't too eager to give it up. Cove spent the rest of the outing sniffing and didn't say much else. The passing of Cove's balloon was the last major event of your adventure. Aww. In the end, the two of you headed back late that afternoon. You separated on the beach, and while Cove went straight home with his brand new sand pail in hand, you decided to sit for a while. You watched the waves and the sunset, fiddling with your new keychain. Another summer day was drawing to a close. It had been nice for the most part. Hopefully there wouldn't be any tears next time. Poor baby. Oh my goodness, no. That's awful. I don't remember that from the first time. It has been a while though. Anyway, I do not quite have enough time to get started on another moment. So, next time we'll check out the library. I'm sure that will be very fun and exciting, and there will be no tears. No trauma. Anyway, thank y'all so much for watching. If you have enjoyed this episode, please leave a like, a comment if you got anything to share. Remember to subscribe if you haven't yet. And if you would like to support me financially, please consider checking out my Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you can get early access to all of my regular videos. And for everyone else, I just hope to see you again in the next one.